Welcome to Collaboration Conversations. I'm your host, Regina Partain-Bergman, CEO of Bridgeport Strategy and co-founder of the CEO Holy Grail. I am excited to bring you this show today. We get to meet some new folks, get to deepen some relationships with folks we've already known for a bit. And I'm really thrilled to have our guest co-host this morning, Miss Gina Gardiner. Welcome, Gina. So glad to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. I am so excited to learn from you and everyone that you've brought to the panel this morning. I just want to share a brief introduction of Gina because I want her to really tell you her story. But she is the CEO of Genuinely-You. She has a long list of accolades. She's done lots of wonderful things, including being a multiple #1 international best-selling author, a motivational and radical change catalyst speaker. I can't wait to hear more about that. Gina, would you please share with us a bit about your journey getting here, who you serve, and why that's important to you? And welcome, Dr. Lizzie.
Hi there. So my professional life started as a teacher. I found I was very good at it, was promoted very early, and I was promoted to be the deputy head or deputy principal of a large school to be the catalyst for change. The school was very much in the dark ages. Within 6 months, I and the head teacher, the principal, had created a strategic plan. And I went off in the week's holiday in February to go skiing, which was my passion, and was ready for everything to go forward. During that week, I had a really bad ski accident. And as a result of that, my life changed, really. I fell 200 feet down a mountain. And I'm not going to dwell on it, but I got back to school eventually in May, and then was looking forward to the summer holidays and being able to have a bit of time to recover. That was not to happen because within 8 days of the holiday starting, my head teacher's wife phoned me very early one morning in a terrible state. She'd found John Hughes, the then head teacher, had died in his sleep. And so the summer holidays was taken up very much with letting people know, planning the funeral, and preparing to be acting head. And this is 1984, so a long time ago. Before I was 29, and I'd only been the deputy for a year, of which 4 months I wasn't at school. I was appointed to be the permanent head in the January. And I then was the head teacher of that school for just over 20 years. And I ran that school for the most part from a wheelchair. And the enormous gift of that, although I have to say at the time it didn't always feel like a gift, was that creating a very different approach to personal empowerment and to leadership based on taking radical responsibility for your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions and your words, for yourself, and then the shared responsibility for the team. It was highly successful. The school was on the best 100 schools in the country list twice during my tenure. And I did a whole range of external roles to bring a budget into school because the budget was so bad. But I was working longer and longer hours and my health was deteriorating. And so I was given an ultimatum in 2004, stop working a 15, 16-hour day or you'll be housebound. And I don't know about the rest of you, but daytime television doesn't do it for me. But I took the decision that I would retire and then thought, what the hell am I going to do now? I've been training and facilitating and coaching at the National College of Leadership, the London Institute, been a workforce reform advisor for the government and all sorts of things, not all at the same time. I had all this expertise and experience. And so what I decided to do was to take myself across to do a research project across industry to look at how did they develop emerging leaders and how did they nurture and grow their senior leaders. And I then started working with corporates, and I did that for the first few years until the last recession. And then since then, I've worked with business owners, mainly SMEs, up to a £10 million turnover, up to 250 staff, using the same principles. Every one of those organizations has become highly much more profitable. If they were successful before, they become even more successful. If they were struggling, they've become successful. But more and more had this sense that I needed to reach more people. The quality of leadership generally I thought was getting worse. And so I started Genuinely-You in order to reach more people. And at that time, I had no internet presence, didn't know how to do all of this stuff. And so I created an internet presence. My YouTube channel's got hundreds of videos on. I've got an accredited leadership program that's been accredited by the Standards Office in the UK. And my speaking is very much around, if you want a different outcome, you don't want a different quality of life, you have to take radical responsibility for how you turn up. If you always do what you've always done, then nothing's going to change. And in my experience, many people, including leaders, are very good at the BS. It's if only you could get the staff, if only the economy was better, if only, rather than looking, how am I turning up? What am I doing moment by moment? Am I being authentic? Do I walk my talk? And so for me, radical change, a catalyst for change is, you can have all of the self-help, or for most people it's shelf-help because they don't actually open the books. You can go on all of the courses that you want, but unless you start to make some changes, nothing is going to change. And one of the pieces of research I find quite shocking is that people going on leadership courses, 6 months later, the research shows that on average they're using 7% of what they learned. Think of the money and the time that's being spent. Why is that not making a bigger difference? And it's because the mindset, the beliefs, the language and the behavior haven't changed. So that's going on. I've also got a radio show, reaches 3.2 million listeners a month. And that's about creating the opportunity to have an even better life. And so themes are very wide-ranging, but always it's about how do we make a positive impact. And just lastly, before I hand it over to these wonderful people that I know from Collaboration Global, is that for me, I have a mission. That mission is to positively impact on at least 1 million leaders within the next 3 years, because the quality of leadership, and you have to first lead yourself in order to lead others well, and do that deep dive work on yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're leading your relationship, your family, your social group, or a huge conglomerate. The principles are the same. And I'm actually absolutely passionate about doing that. And my most recent thing to take on, I'm now the vice chair of Fatima's UK campaign charity, and we want to revolutionise the care system in the UK. And in my spare time, I get a bit of sleep.
Bits. I'm glad you get some of that. We can just say amen and all go home, right? I mean, this woman has done and is doing phenomenal things. What a difference you've already made in the world, Gina.
I have to say, I've been around a long time. When you get to, you have to put it into the context that, I've been doing this a very long time.
And that young woman who was, I'm sure, so frightened when she had to take over for that, in that leadership role. And look what you did. And you were there for 20 years. Amazing. And the things that you accomplished. The world is a better place because of you, Gina. We're glad to be here with you.
That's very kind of you to say. I do my best.
It's true. I'm absolutely certain of that. Gina, would you please introduce each of our guests and have them share a bit about their story, who they serve, and why it's important to them?
I just want to say that all of these people are absolutely phenomenal in their own right. I'm just going to go through the screen, so there's no pecking order here. It's just simply.
I was your favourite, Gina, but okay.
Well, look, Louise, the last thing I want to do is upset you. This is a phenomenal lady, and actually, I'm frightened of her, really. Louise Richardson, who runs a charity, I'm going to hand over to you, my darling.
Thank you, and thanks for the invite to join. So my name, as Gina told you, is Louise Richardson, and I run a charity in the north of Scotland called AbSafe. So The why is that we work with children and young people, adults, people with learning disabilities, and our mission is to inspire people and save their lives. So we teach them everything from around general safety, whether that be how we teach children how to be safe around roads or trains or on the internet, to how we do mindfulness sessions in school. So we work with schools so they do mindfulness sessions twice a day, so it makes them a more compassionate, engaged school. To we've just got some outdoor space, so we're doing some nature stuff. But ultimately, it's about working with the community, and we can't do that without engaging others. And yeah, I know Gina, and yeah, I mean, it's in the awe of her. Just to circle in her orbit is a nice place. So
I'll pay you later.
yeah, thank you. And I think it's about, when we talk about leadership and that statistic that Gina mentioned, it's because people who sometimes design leadership courses aren't looking at people who are becoming more authentic themselves. It's not something you do to somebody, it has to be something you do with people. And you can't do that unless you know people, how people develop, and really get them to be vulnerable in that space. So I think that statistic really shows that leadership courses that can exist aren't fit for purpose. Because to be a great leader, you need to have an understanding of who you are, what your strengths are, and who to hold hands with and bring in to kind of address maybe some of the limitations that you have. And I think leadership isn't seen as that, and it's not a one thing. A leadership, to be a great leader, you have to be yourself. Like people that know me know I'm quite direct. Sometimes I'm too direct. So
Very pregnant pause at that point.
I think I noticed.
Sometimes I'm a woman of many words, and sometimes I'm really not. So I think that's the way I lead, right? And that's the way that I do things, and that's the way that I communicate. And it's always from a place of love and understanding, hopefully. And if it's based from then you get the authenticness of me.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to fluff that up just because that's what people expect.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of leadership. You should be able to lead as you are, who you are, where you are. Because if we all led in the same way, then it doesn't work. Yeah. Right? It's a bit like Dr. Lizzie loves getting up really early and doing exercise, right?
No.
I do. But she's a fantastic leader. And it's a very simple example, but it's an example to say that we all do it differently, and that's okay, as long as we're doing it from a very firm, compassionate, kind place, and that our mission is that we want to make the world a better place through what we do every day. I think that's the common thread. So that's probably my why.
Thank you. And what I would say is that AbSafe have developed an amazing game to teach children water safety, and they're looking for sponsorship. £5,000, and you can have branding all over it. But please, if you're listening to this and you want to make a difference, that's a really simple way of doing it. So yeah, thanks, Liz.
Yeah, you could save lots of lives just by donating that money or contributing to the funding. So thanks for mentioning it. But yeah, that's my where and why and whom.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Stanley Dietrich is also a member of Collaboration Global, and Stanley is they're all amazing people. So Stanley, tell us about you.
Well, I am honored to be in such a beautiful cast here. So being the only gentleman in a room full of ladies, it's how I grew up. I found myself a lot more with women, protected my mom. And that's how my story began. It really as to why I do what I do. It's I saw that there had to be something better. I watched my mom suffer, and I watched her go through a lot of pain and tragedy in life. And even as a young child, I said, there's got to be a better way. And I began to just articulate. And that's before I knew what the word articulate was, but I was already dissecting it. I was already doing it. And I wanted to help other people. And what actually happened was I found myself around a bunch of girls, and because I was not a threat and I wasn't competing with them, and so they could bring their stuff to me, and I'd give them strategies for boyfriends, and then it just grew from there. And you know, I honor my mom, even though she's been passed, in this way, is that I share ways to get out of pain and ways to think differently, to ways to see things differently. And that's what motivates me to do what I do. And one of those things is that I help people become pain-free. And that's physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And as I focus on that, it's a culmination, it's one unit. And because the body is made up of many parts. And so as we gather together, I'm gleaning this information from each one of you and seeing your cause and how it collaborates and how it's complementary to everything that we all do individually and then corporately as a unique share, give, and also our contribution to the world around us and also to ourselves. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah.
Thanks, Stanley. We're going to go to Nikki Finnegan now. Nikki is involved some pretty amazing stuff.
Thank you, Gina. I always love collaborating with Collaboration Global people. Let's be honest, they are a magical group. So my story is I am a recovering accountant. I spent many years doing jobs that were not my right fit. I was having to wear beige when really I want to just fly my little unicorn flag and do what brings me joy. And I, as a result of working in the finance industry, came across some, let's call it challenging places. And much like Gina was saying earlier, there is gifts in all of this. That I worked in these challenging places. I saw, things that shouldn't happen in a workplace or anywhere else for that matter. The bullying, the abuse, and having that sense of some days powerlessness was quite a big thing, and recognizing I didn't belong there. So for me, working through that, I actually started working in change and transformation programs because I was seconded to a project in earlier point in my career, which was actually I started to see in order for this organization to bring in technology, there's a lot of transformation and people change that needs to happen. So I became really connected to and a little bit obsessed with how do we help people change? How do we help them stand up and take their power back? Because that was a place where I started to take my power back. And it's really interesting because I've been having to replay my story a bit in recent times. And every time I tell my story, I learn something new about myself, which is wonderful. So I went out into that space. I went out on my own to do change and transformation with organizations with digital as the catalyst. But the reason the programs that I designed were so successful was because we already know the technology works. The part for me, the joy, was seeing the people. And Gina said it earlier, it's about giving them a place and a space to feel that empowerment, to step into who they are, who they want to be. And that's all about helping them shift their mindset. So I had one particular program where I was running around the world on a global rollout. And I just had all the stars aligned. The people that I worked with were magical. They inspired me. They pushed me to be better every day. And it was, and I never liked this concept of family in, an organizational sense because it feels a little bit disingenuous, but it actually became the family. And they're such an important group. It was where the Change Tribe was born because I thought to myself, this is what every person needs to feel when they step into work. Mm. This sense of deep belonging to yourself, to the group, that sense of I have my place and my space and my talents are needed, wanted, and make a difference. My contribution is valued. I am valued. And I value myself for the contribution I'm making. And it's that the Change Tribe was born, because I thought we all need to feel this. We all need to have this every day, because this is what work should be. Work shouldn't be a chore. Work should be the place you get to explore, experiment, play, be who you came here to be, and not be beige. Be the unicorn that you are, because only you have all of your experiences, all of your gifts, all of your talents, all of your patterns, only you. And so the Change Tribe and myself, we are here to revolutionize how we work. And that starts with you. And we predominantly work at the moment with newly forming teams, because we get the pleasure of giving them strong foundations, a sense of deep belonging, a sense of stepping into their power, and helping them connect so that they can collaborate and help themselves see the true value that they bring, not just through their work, but to the world. And I think that's a really important piece. And it's part of my journey, really belonging to me, knowing that they always fit. And actually, I have many gifts, as do we all, that need to be shared with the world. Why would I be selfish and keep them all to myself, right? So that's my story.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Just very conscious of time. Last but not least, Dr. Lizzie Berntal. Now, what a lady and what a story this woman has. She's a powerhouse, not just because she gets up very early in the morning, does exercise, but because of who she is. Lizzie, tell us your story.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be here. And I learn so much from all of you every single time. So I actually, whereas Stanley spent a lot of his time with ladies, I spent a lot of time with men, because I spent 25 years in the army as a 10% woman. I'm all woman, but 10% of us were women. And I got to Lieutenant Colonel, which was not that great, but it's actually quite, there weren't that many of us at the time that got to Lieutenant Colonel. So I spent my career in healthcare. And I've got a doctorate in PhD in resilience. So that's why I've got the doctor bit. But I think what was really interesting resounds to so much of all of you. I was passionate. I've always been passionate of giving people a voice, whether it was from the playground when I saw somebody was bullying, to kind of always want to give them a voice, whether it's patients, later on when I was a lecturer, it's students and so forth. But it's really interesting. I realized I didn't have my own voice, even though I was passionate about giving people theirs. And one day, and I used to speak around the world. I love speaking. It's my happy place. I was very happy giving my voice in that respect, add value and so forth. But then one day I found my voice. In one day, I've always seemed to have those tricky bosses. And one day I'd had enough. My tricky boss undermined me one more time, and I stood up in the boardroom and I said, enough is enough. This has to stop. And that set my mission to end workplace toxicity once and for all. And so I left the army and set up my own business, Release Your Potential. And what I love doing, it's such a joy, is I help leaders, particularly directorate level, overcome the battle room, the boardroom, shine who they are, find their truest self, belong to who they are, and very much into the belonging thing as well. No more fitting in, because belonging is the opposite of fitting in. Because we can only belong to ourselves. But how often are we that chameleon that wants to fit in to be liked? So that's my joy. I love doing that. And I love helping them and very much unpick all those beliefs in childhood, all that stuff we learn in childhood that doesn't serve us, that pulls us back. So I do a lot of work with clients about their ego and their intuition, and just clear all that. And yes, I've been to some very dodgy places, including Afghanistan and avalanches and coups. But every single time I'm in any adverse situation, I really believe everything's happened for us and not to us. And we can learn, no matter how extreme the situation, we are meant to have that experience. And if we go into life with having that experience, and I'm also fundamentally believe that if we ever offer an opportunity, we create an opportunity, and things are there waiting for us to grab. So life is to be lived, and let's live it.
So you can see what an amazing group of people.
Amazing.
And
Absolutely.
and not to make light of anybody here, there are any number of people from the group that we come from who would be just as stunning in terms of their experience and what they offer the world. So I'm very proud to be part of the group. And so the listeners, you get a sense of who these people are. They're just giving you the tip of the iceberg.
Indeed. Indeed. I'm sure we could go for hours with each of them and discover so much more. I think I'd like to go in the direction of the group that you talked about, though, your Collaboration Global. I think we'd like to hear more about that and how you're using that to impact the world.
So sadly, Jill Tiny, who is the founder of Collaboration Global, was going to join us. She's been working incredibly hard, and she was going to join us from her holiday. And it was Louise who was being her direct self. I won't quite use the language that she used because I'm more of a lady than Louise is. But she did actually say to Jill, Jill, this is ridiculous. You've got a week for rest and recuperation. And that's when Nikki very kindly stepped in. But Jill started the organisation because she wanted to have a group of heart-centred people who wanted to get away from networking in its traditional sense. And I've often tried to define this group, and it's not a networking group. It's not a personal development group. It's something else. But it starts with that we are all human, and that we, whatever your creed, your color, your shape, your religion, whatever, that you are welcome, that there are core values that everybody lives by. So it's an opportunity for people to learn from one another. We have some amazing speakers, but we have an opportunity then to talk and to engage with whatever the principles of the speaker is. And for me, I don't know about the others, but for me, it's the place I go to recharge my batteries. I'm giving out the whole time. And yet that time in the month, there's a members meeting and there is a visitors meeting, and anybody can come to the visitors meeting. That's when I can be safe to be authentically me. And if things are challenging, I can be really honest and do that. But I can also celebrate my successes and know that people will be egging me on. And if I've got an issue, there are experts within the group that I can go to for technical or marketing or whatever. And so I've been with it since its inception. I would say to anybody, come along to a visitors meeting. Go to collaborationglobal.com and you'll find that there's an invite there. But I'm interested to know, what do you think, you lot?
Yeah, could I ask real quick, how long has it been in place? How long have you been doing this? How long has it been?
It was in a different format for about 10 years. And we used to have face-to-face meetings. None of it was online, and it was all there were different meetings in different localities. Right. But it's been in its present form, I think, now for about 4 years, four-ish years, maybe a little longer. And that was really because Jill was very determined that the direction was going to be one that comes from a place of love. And lots of people think that's pink and fluffy. I happen to believe that if coming from unconditional love, you can have high expectations of yourself and of others and do it in a way that people know that you want the best. So yeah, it's about 4 years now.
Awesome.
And it's global because it's all online.
All online. Fantastic. Fantastic. So yes, I would love to hear comments from everyone of
so let's go and reverse order. What about you, Lizzie? Let's whip round and just beware of time. That's all.
Yeah, and I think it's just an extraordinary group of people. I think it attracts extraordinary people, and it's self-perpetuating. I think we learn, we support, just as Gina says, there's always people in there you can go to. I think it has a uniqueness about it. I mean, there's lots of groups that you can talk about like that. I think it brings the best out of everyone. It only attracts people that want to generally make a difference in the world. Lots of people say they want to make a difference, but actually they're not, if I'm honest.
Not the right sort of distance difference anyway.
I think we all have a passion to make the world collectively a better place, but all within our own sphere of how we're going to do that individually.
Right.
So that's the common core with a common value. So I think that's my take on it.
Brilliant. Nikki?
Excellent.
It's a bit like the place where you go, and for the women watching or listening to this, you know that feeling when you take your bra off?
Freedom.
Exactly. And everyone in there wants to grow. And I think that's the special part about it. Like, everyone's looking to keep expanding, keep growing themselves so they can serve more people. They can make more impact in the world. That's the real sense of it. But it is that sense of when you come into a collaboration global meeting, it's like taking your bra off, or for the men, maybe taking your shoes off.
I think we'll leave that metaphor there, because there was a bit going on there. I was getting a bit worried about the metaphor going in terms of growing. So we'll leave that there. Stanley?
He's got to recover.
Okay, yeah, I have to recover because, I'm a visual person. So imagination is my area of expertise and creativity. So now that we've shared that, I want to just say that Collaboration Global is a place that you feel like, yeah, you can just not put any facades on. You come in, you're welcomed from the very beginning. You experience this professionalism without scarcity, and it is the continual want to help you grow wherever you're at, and also grow professionally and also grow personally. And it is that connection that you don't find just anywhere. And I want to say that it's better than a family reunion, because I've been to family reunions that I didn't want to go to. And this is one of those that, we can't choose our family, but this is a family that you can choose to be a part of, and you connect, and the willingness to make things accessible, and share past experiences so that you don't have to learn them all. That's what the beauty of this. I love the group. I love what Jill and Gina have done, and those that I've met. I can't say enough good about. So
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Louise?
I think it's it's about a supportive approach, but with a degree of honesty. So there's no and it gets wheedled out quite quickly when people come and want to do a sales pitch. We're like, that's not what it's about. It's about, and I think that's really helpful to know that you go in just for someone to kind of listen to what you're actually saying, and try and sit with that, and then try and come together and maybe offer some helpful tips or hints, or just listen. Sometimes you don't want someone to problem solve for you. And I think it's a place where I've met some incredible people. And I don't say that often, as people know me know. I don't say those things, but I think I've met some incredible people that I would consider lifelong friends there. And some of them I haven't even met in person. Like, I've never met Gina in person, ever. No. I mean, she doesn't want that to happen, because it might be a stalker situation. However, it is. But I consider Gina as someone that I would trust and I would go to, and I have a lot of personal and professional time for. I know Dr. Lizzie quite well as well, and I think this is what you don't get in business, because they have nothing to gain from my ramblings, But I have a lot to gain from listening to what they've done, what their advice is, and and I think it's because it's from a place of kindness and honesty. It helps you progress, and it helps you hold a mirror up to myself, because sometimes I can get out of hand, Regina. I know it's a shocker, Sometimes I keep it out of hand and I need people to go, that's probably you getting out of hand a little bit. And I'm like, maybe right. I'm still doing it, but at least I know I'm doing it. And I think sometimes that genuine honesty, that's why, Gina, genuinely news that you need that genuineness, and you need people that are going to be genuine around that. In terms of celebrations and maybe just pointing out, maybe you could maybe do things differently. So I think that's a really good place to do that from.
Excellent.
The other thing just to say is that there is such an eclectic mix of people. Today we've got people who are very much one on, working with people, but there are also people in very different industries. There's a really eclectic mix. So we've got web developers and we've got just all sorts. And so what your business is doesn't matter. It's who you are that matters.
Right. Comment and then go ahead, please, Gina.
So the reason I was looking down, I was trying to find the email address because I've obviously got it wrong. If any of you know the email address, can you put it into for Collaboration Global? Can you put it into the chat so people will know what that is afterwards?
Awesome. One comment and then a question. When as I've listened to each of you, and especially as I was listening to Stanley, the word that came to my mind was, it's like going home. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, and I know you talked about the family reunion kind of thing, Stanley, but I truly felt that word home, and it just was a warm, embracing feeling.
It is incredibly welcoming.
Yeah. What kind of, or how large is the population of Collaboration Global? How many folks do you have worldwide?
So there are lots of different levels of membership.
Oh, okay. Tell us a little bit.
And it's being done to keep it if you go to some of these network groups, they're very, very expensive. But there is a level for students. There's a level for people who want to perhaps just come to the meetings. There's those who want to engage, and there's all sorts of things. So members do 10-minute teaches and do a series of those. You can present. There's a podcast. And so there's a different level of membership. But people can come for free. And it's, our visitors meetings are anything from 40 to 80. Members meetings vary hugely. Once a week there is for members, you can go, and it's like going to the pub really. You can have whichever, whether you want a cup of tea or a gin and tonic, and we come and there's a thing and people just have a chat. There's so many different elements to this, and it's up to people to make of it what they will.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I applaud this. As you know, the name of the show is Collaboration Conversations. So collaboration is huge for me, and I really see it as a tool for changing the world. And that's why I love doing this show, is because we never know who's listening, who's going to be impacted by what's said here, who may get an idea of how they can collaborate. People who've never been involved in a collaboration before and don't really know what that means. Don't have any idea what a blessing that can be in their lives.
I think one of the things to take on board, if you look at each of us as an individual, we bring something very special to the table.
Exactly.
But look at the collective experience, expertise, talents, creativity, sometimes just bloody mindedness to get things done. All of those, when we come together as a collective with core values that are the same. And that's the bit which is, I think, the telling one. There are many collaborations that break down because the values are different. And
Talk about values for a moment, because I think that's extremely important in any collaboration, is that you be on the same page.
Two levels to this. We are very, very good at bandying about words. So integrity, respect, compassion, but everybody's got a different blueprint for those words. And if you start to unpick, what do we mean? What are the behaviors that we need to see to know that those are being honored? We'll all have a different blueprint. But where it works is when you've collectively explored those and you have a collective language. So we're each talking our own language. We were talking about this yesterday, Stanley, weren't we? Each of us are talking our own language. So I might be talking apples and Stanley pears and Liz oranges, but what we do is we create the language of fruit. So everybody has a clear understanding of what those values are.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
the values, are revisited so that they are live. They're not just something that's stuck in a folder, as happens in many businesses. They are living, breathing. You can see the evidence of people honoring those in terms of the way they interact.
Excellent. Dr. Lizzie, I felt you had a comment a moment ago, and then we'll go to Louise.
Yeah, I think I totally get the thing about going home, and I think when you were talking about values, I was thinking in terms of for all of us, I think probably integrity is probably our strongest value, and it's all about being the person when no one's watching. It's all about being the leader when no one's seeing you, and it's the hashtag practice what you preach thing. So I think that's I think probably how all of us have got that inbuilt. This is what integrity means. Yes, you have to have courage. Yes, sometimes it's tricky, but you're going to do it anyway, no matter what.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Louise?
I was just saying, when we work with, because ABSAFE predominantly works with children, and we try and do that authenticness with them. And I think that's not done enough. We don't play it. We don't play being someone with them. We're like, this is who we are. And I think it's translating that to everybody around you. So what you can experience in that group may give you some sense of self that you can do that elsewhere. I mean, if anybody's going to pick up somebody not being the true selves, it's going to be a 10-year-old kid, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And there's a degree of honesty there. So I think the group really, in some kind of really strange place, really replicates that. It's that kind of, we're all trying to, if you can sniff it out when somebody's maybe not being as genuine as they're saying, and then you go back to that, is this person using integrity in the way that we all agree what it is? And I think when we work with kids, and we do this with the kids that come here to ABSAFE, we talk about verbal contracts, we talk about authenticness, we talk about how you can be the best version of yourself. And I think we need to do that a lot more across the board. But actually having a group that does that already allows you to see it in action. So once you see it in action, go, it does work. You can be authentic, you can be honest, you can be genuine. Because in a lot of places we sit, particularly if you are a founder or a CEO, there's not many of us. Right, there's only one CEO of me in this organization. But having a place where you can share and hear and kind of explore those maybe tricky elements that Dr. Lizzie was talking about, then for sure that then it gives you I suppose a better foundation then to kind of ripple it out elsewhere, whether that's to the people that you work with, or for us it's the young people that come here, or whatever. So I think that's why it's important.
Awesome. And just a kind of a final comment along that. One of the things that I've always embraced is that as we understand each other better, and so this authenticity, this honesty that you're talking about, this transparency of really coming out as who we truly are in this, as we understand who somebody else is and we can truly see who they are, then we can have more compassion towards them. And it enhances our ability to communicate with them, to work with them, to see them as who they truly are. And when we can do that, as I say, we're then able to bring more compassion into the relationship and understanding. So I see that as a benefit of what you're all doing. Awesome. Well, folks, we are out of time. It goes so quickly. It does. It goes so quickly. So we're going to move into our wrap-up round, and I'm going to call on Miss Gina to run our wrap-up round. So Gina, you will ask each person for their final thoughts on collaboration, as well as their contact information. And while you're all doing that, I'll put your contact information in the public comments. Okay?
Brilliant. Thank you. Let's start with Nikki.
So I think for me, collaboration is that special space where nothing can get done without it, particularly the big things like changing the world and making the difference that we all want to make. And I am very grateful and appreciative of the people that I have in Collaboration Global who are truly special humans making a big difference. So I am very grateful for them. and for Jill for creating it.
And where can people find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Nikki Finucane, or through our website, thechangetribe.org.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Stanley, let's go to you next.
Okay, well, I think the beauty that brings us all together is that we're multiple colors and we're brought to a canvas and we create art. We've taken our problems that we've experienced and as I've heard these stories, we said enough is enough and I can't stand no more, you know, just like Popeye used to say. And then he'd eat the spinach and then he'd take care of stuff. And that's what we've all done. We've all said, I can't stand no more. And enough is enough. And we're going to make a change. And we're going to make a change with other people that see a vision of something much bigger than ourselves. And we can't do it by ourselves. So we bring it together with this collaboration. And that's the beauty of understanding not only ourselves, but understanding the environment that's around us and how each one of us has a unique gift. And we just need somebody who's already gone through it to take their super and put it on our natural. And then we become a supernatural human being doing things that we love to do with people that we love to do it with for a cause that we love. And that's really what it comes down to. So anybody that wants to know a little bit more about me, you can go to my website. That's 360lifewithoutlimits.com. You can check me out on LinkedIn as well. I'm not the technical person, so I can't put all my little link tree links in. So that's not my strength. I'm going to leave that to someone else, but 360lifewithoutlimits.com, they can check me out and book a virtual coffee. They want to know a little bit more about me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Louise, what about you?
I don't want people to listen to this and feel overwhelmed. You know, I mean, we're all in it to change things, but actually the change as it's what you were saying before, it starts with you. So to do little steps. Don't sit and think, oh my goodness, these people that look like they've got it together. Look, we're just like everybody else. Sometimes we look like we got it together, and sometimes it looks like we have, you know, we've been spun around 3 times, we've got a blindfold on, and someone's just placed us in the motorway, right? So I don't want people to listen to this and go, oh my. What I want people to do is really think about where they are in their life, what they need to maybe make. So maybe do the little steps. And the little steps are, if you're going to collaborate. And it sounds really twee, but bear with me. Collaborate with yourself. Understand what your why is. And then move forward from that space. So don't think that we've gone today and like, right, we're going to change the world. You know, we know what we're doing. We're here because we've gone through that process. And we're here just to say it's doable. We've all got different backgrounds. We've all come from different childhood experiences. But it's just about collaborate with yourself, find out what your why is and what your who is, and try and marry them together and try and maybe just move forwards towards a better potential you. And then it doesn't have to be so big and so overwhelming. So I don't want people to be listening to this thinking we've got our stuff together. Sometimes we do, but honestly, sometimes we don't. So we're here with this. Just be the best you, and the way that you do that is start collaborating with your own sense of self.
I think that's so powerful, Louise. Thanks very much. And I think it's very easy to look at people who have, you know, done a lot of work on themselves and think that they've got it all taped. And anybody who knows any of us know that we all have our days. But the one thing about the collaboration is that when you're having one of those days, you know that there's somebody within the group that you can phone and say, I just need somebody to give me a virtual hug and to listen to me whine for a few minutes, and then I'll put my self-pity away and I'll get on with my day. So thank you. Lizzie.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's all to me about connection. It's all about being better than we are ourselves, and, you know, rising up to that level that we didn't even realize we were capable of doing, and collectively just being together and just creating the world much better than we would ever be able to do by ourselves.
Brilliant, thank you. And where can people find you?
Yes, so I've got my own business, Release Your Potential. LinkedIn is my sort of home, so I think I'm the only one that's Lizzie Bernthal, so you can find me on LinkedIn. My website is Release Your Potential, and I also do a very short 2-minute resilience questionnaire that's in my LinkedIn. I can give you some tips personal to you to find out how resilient you are.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm Gina Gardiner. I'm all over social media like a rash. You can find me on all of those. But if you want to speak to me, then email me at Gina, Gina, at genuinely-you.com. That's Gina at genuinely-you.com. If you'd like to listen to the radio show, there's a free app on Apple and also on Android, which is Brushwood Media Network. And you can listen to it. It's at 8 o'clock a.m. and 11 o'clock repeat UK. But it's available all over the world, wherever you're listening, and love to have you there. My parting comment really is that you deserve the very best that you can be. And if you need some help and you want to engage with a group that are there ready to help, then Collaboration Global is a really great place to start. And that if you've listened to all of the people here, that they all offer very different things. I think the important thing, given the state of the world, that we have so much dissension and anger and fear, that coming to a place where you can feel safe to be you and to try things on for size and think, is this me or not? And know that people aren't going to judge you harshly is really valuable. You know, I started off by saying, you know, you're the common denominator in your life. Well, it's time to recognize that the biggest limitation that you have is you. And if you want to spread your wings and find a way to be a better version of you, based on the best version of you today, then Collaboration Global and collaboration in general is a great way to start.
Amen. Not much more needs to be said.
Yeah, I haven't got the right email address for Collaboration Global for somebody.
Can we? So somebody can put that in. Oh, let's see. Maybe it's there now. Let's see. Oh, okay, Lizzie. You'll get an email from me that will tell you what we're going to talk about here in a moment. Okay. So
lovely.
All right.
So, and thank you, Virginia, for the opportunity to get together in the way that we have, because it's pretty special to have some time with all of these folks.
I can see that it is, absolutely. And it's been my pleasure to have you all here. I want to thank our listeners and viewers for being with us today, whether you're watching this now or you're watching it later. We hope you got some value out of it and that you can see how passionate each of us are about collaboration and how we change the world through collaborating, change our own lives, improve our own lives, but improve the lives of others as we collaborate. So thank you. We'll see you again next time on Collaboration Conversations. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.